Welcome to the latest Motley Fool Scoreboard. I'm on in Chock-a-Balloon. We've got longtime fools, Matt Frankel and Toby Bordelon, giving a 1 to 10 rating to the place that replaced the Hampton Inn as my favorite place to stay on vacation. It's Airbnb, ticker symbol ABNB. First thing we'll do is we'll rate the strength of the business, including factors like industry and competition. There's a lot of competition. A 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. Toby's given a 7. Matt's given an 8. We'll start with Toby's 7.
Yeah, this is a really strong business, I think. And the best thing about it is probably the brand name and the name recognition of that. It's led to a very strong network effect, which is hard for competitors to overcome, right? You got a ton of hosts who want to be on Airbnb and a ton of guests who want to book through Airbnb because there's so many options there, right? Even so, this is a very competitive market. The big hotel chains are not just rolling over, right? And regulation does remain a significant risk. Look at what happened in New York City last year with basically them being banned there. The company is very dependent on its host network too, which does create some vulnerabilities there, I think. So those risks are kind of why I went for 7 here.
Yeah, I went with an 8. There are few businesses that have successfully completely disrupted an industry like Airbnb has and become like synonymous with what they do. Even if we book a vacation house through someone else, we say we're getting an Airbnb. Like it's synonymous with vacation rentals. There's very little direct competition. Even some of its so-called rivals. Like I use a different property manager for my vacation home, and they list it on Airbnb because you have to. Regulatory risk is a concern for me, and it is a highly cyclical business. It really hasn't been through a recession that has affected people's desire to travel yet. With the exception of COVID, which that was not a normal recession. So that does concern me a little bit, but I rated it slightly higher.
To that branding point that Matt brought up, I didn't even know how to pronounce Verbo until recent commercials. I was totally calling it VRBO. Maybe that's what it used to be. I don't know. Management, though. A 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Both of you have 8s. Go ahead, Toby.
Yeah, I love what CEO Brian Chesky's done with this company. His leadership is inspired, and he is a big part of the success of Airbnb here. He's a visionary. He's capable of pivoting when he needs to, and he's not afraid to try new things, even though that might fail. That's what you love in a leader. Let's try this. If it doesn't work, we'll move on. He's very invested in the business, too, and he owns a significant amount of stock.
Yeah, I completely agree. I gave it an 8 as well. He's done a fantastic job, and it's not just the CEO that's successful here. Just to name one example, their head of marketing spent 2 decades at Apple and was the leader of marketing campaigns for the iPod and iPhone. You don't really get a better resume than that. And I can go on, but this is only a 7-minute segment. Very impressive C-suite all around.
Yeah, I think during the pandemic, I think they had the most notable and best management where they were able to pivot to those longer term bookings and, away from cities and things like that. I mean, that could have crippled with worse management. I mean, Airbnb might not be around.
Well, there was the fee issue too. Remember, like there were so many memes being posted, like, my Airbnb was $100, but then I went to check out and it's $350.
Yep.
And he did a great job of tackling things like that too.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive, especially when you're dealing with all these regulatory hurdles and stuff. Someone who can quickly adapt and be sensitive to feedback is pretty darn important. Let's move on to the financials. A 10 is a fortress. A 1 is yikes. Both of you have an 8. Why so good, Matt?
I said not only does Airbnb have a lot of cash, but they have a couple unique features. For one, they hold billions of dollars in money that people have used to book places, but hasn't been paid out to their hosts yet. They get interest income off of that. There are a couple of negatives, such as the stock-based comp being a little bit high for my taste, but I've turned into the stock-based comp police after the 2021 wave of IPOs. They're buying back stock aggressively, and I feel like the share count should be declining a little faster. But great financials, just generally extremely profitable company for something that's growing as much as it is.
Yeah, 8 for me too here. Balance sheet is fantastic, right? Cash flow is fantastic. They have plenty of cash, as Matt noted. Long-term debt is just about $2 billion versus $11 billion in cash and short-term investments on that balance sheet. So that's fantastic. The only reason I don't go higher than an 8 here is because a lot of that income, as Matt noted, is interest on cash from the float they hold. So I'm a little bit concerned in an environment of potentially falling interest rates about how that's going to impact them. But that's kind of nitpicking here when you really look at how strong this balance sheet is.
Sure. I don't think Airbnb has the Berkshire Hathaway option of investing that interest or investing the money that we prepay into something more aggressive than just income or than bonds. Let's go on to valuation. Matt, how well will Airbnb stock do over the next 5 years? And how safe is it? Keeping in mind a 10 is a sure thing, a 1 is a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I said 10 to 15% annualized returns over the next 5 years. Very good, but not, stellar. I gave it a 6 for a safety score. It's the lowest score I gave Airbnb in this examination here. It really depends what the economy does. If the economy stays really strong, and people are traveling and have money to spend, and wage growth is strong, and unemployment stays low, I don't see any case why this wouldn't be a 15% annualized returner. But that's a big if. It's very sensitive to travel demand. You saw Airbnb kind of crashed in an earlier earnings report this year when the company just hinted that it was starting to see demand soften. And so I think it could be very sensitive if the economy turns.
Yeah, I went with a full 15% plus here, right? I'm just going to go all out and say I'm really optimistic about this company being a winner over the next 5 years. They did, part of that is they did note in the last earnings report that we're looking at expanding beyond the core into something else. I don't know what that is, but if they can be successful there, I think you're going to see that 15% range. Safety score is 7. Like Matt, I am concerned about the risks here. They are significant. This strikes me as a high risk, high reward business.
Time for everyone's favorite topic. Matt, is there a company in Airbnb space you like more?
I said Ryman, even though it's not a direct competitor. I kind of prefer the real estate end of the lodging business. And Ryman is best in breed. They focus on group lodging. They're one of the few hotel REITs that is not an Airbnb competitor because they are they focus on group business like conventions, conferences, things like that. Things that your Airbnb host would be kind of upset if you held at one of their properties.
Yeah, for me, maybe Marriott. Interestingly, Marriott stock has actually outperformed Airbnb since Airbnb's IPO, which I find fascinating there. But that actually probably speaks to the valuation of Airbnb at the IPO more than anything else there, and the excitement at the time. I love Airbnb for its potential for sure, but Marriott is still a dominant player in the hospitality industry, still capable of delivering strong returns. They're probably a little bit of a safer bet. So if you're not into the high risk, high reward company, maybe you look at something a little bit steadier like Marriott.
Remember during those pandemic lows how good it's performed since. Thanks to both Matt and to Toby. They've given Airbnb an overall score of 7.8 out of 10, which is down a bit from the 8.7 that Tom Gardner and Matt Argersinger gave it about a year ago. That was one of the first ones we did. Matt and Toby scored it lower on safety for 1. That said, 7.8, 8.7, they're both in the really good company range, and I'm happily holding my Airbnb shares. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Disney. Till then, Fool on.
Italy has banned remote check-in for Airbnbs and just vacation places generally, meaning the host of the property has to physically meet the guest in person. It's probably not a big deal. It's more a big deal for the bigger cities like Rome and Milan, where they have some remote ownership, right?